So, how do parents support what's going on with their kid? And I would say the biggest thing is communication. And to be very blunt, you're the ones paying for it, so you need to have as much information as possible. Hopefully, this has provided you some information about what they should be doing, where they should be researching, sort of the process that they should be going through as they go through this stuff. And once they actually get into actually filling out the application, they may have questions for you. They have questions for me, and supporting with that. But I think keeping that communication line open with them, I always encourage them, especially during their senior year, to keep an open communication with you, and especially around the university stuff, to give you information about it, as much as you're willing and able to listen to it. But bottom line is the money's coming from you, and you need to know if you're spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on your kid's education, you need to have information about it. And so they need to tell you about it. The other thing is listening to your kids' concerns and help them process it. So I know a lot of us as parents get caught up in telling them what they should and shouldn't do and how they're doing in school, and we're all parents. We all want to watch out for our kids, but this is a time for them to also be growing up and exploring themselves, and they're writing about themselves and who they are and what they've accomplished. And this stuff is not easy. Sometimes it gets complicated, and so this is the part where a parent needs to step back a little bit and help them process what's going on and problem solve. Sometimes they just need to get it off their chest. And once they do, they can move on. So it's really helping them to process what's going on, problem solve, but also process what they're feeling, what they're going through, stuff like that. And then especially if this is your first child going off, paying attention to your own emotions, they may sneak up on you. You may be sitting there listening to your child talk about all this and feeling very proud, and then all of a sudden have this dip and I'm not going to see this child every day. And so you might be going through it, and it might surprise you as well. And all parents have said that they've gone through this the first time. They just didn't know what to expect and how they would actually feel about this. And so paying attention to that as you're going through, and you may even talk to your kid about that as well. I think it's helpful sometimes to talk about how you're feeling through this process, so that if you do get angry or go off on them, they're understanding that you're actually hurting or anticipate they're leaving, and that's doing, it's making you feel weird. I'm going to also attach what our kids want to this. So every year I ask students what they would want me to tell parents in this presentation. And I would say the number one thing is their ability to choose. So even though we as parents have control, have sort of that money, students, and even have the right, I think, to say what kind of universities that you want them to look at or choose, or even. But they talk about the ability to choose. They're the ones that are doing the work. They're doing the in-depth work. A lot of times they feel like they've found some really good schools that maybe aren't ranked, that aren't on a parent's radar, and they'd still like to apply to them. And kids are reasonable. I've had kids where parents tell them they have to apply to all these schools, and some kids want, and then other parents that say, I don't care. And I think I think the best is probably in between. Where parents are taking their own knowledge and saying, I think it'd be good if you apply to some of these schools. But I think that the student has to have choice. If we really want to empower them to be connected to the school that they're going to, if we really want them to have enthusiasm about this process that they're going through and really do a good job of searching out and taking the time to find a good fit school, they really need to have the ability to choose at least some of the schools they're applying to. They've told me to look beyond the rankings, that they do stuff that goes beyond the rankings, that the top 10 schools or top 15 schools are not the only things out there. They've gone through 4 years of me talking about not only the ranked schools, but what else is out there, that there's just a lot of really good schools out there. And so the kids who have done really deeper research beyond the rankings may end up with schools that you've never heard of and feel like they're a good fit. So they've asked me to maybe take a second look for us as adults and go beyond the rankings. That they need to spend time creating a good essay. They really, I don't know what it is, but the essay seems to be one of the scariest ones that students face. And they need to spend time creating a good essay. So if they're spending hours and hours and hours writing an essay, just understand that they're really taking the time and effort to do that.